The first thing I heard wasn't the steady beeping of the heart monitor. It was someone quietly crying beside me. Every breath felt heavy, my body refused to move, and my memories were scattered like broken glass. When I finally forced my eyes open, I expected to see my girlfriend standing beside the bed. Instead, I saw her younger sister sitting in the chair, exhausted, her eyes swollen from countless sleepless nights. The moment she realized I was awake, tears rolled down her cheeks as she smiled with unbelievable relief. In that fragile moment, before I understood what had happened, I knew one thing for certain: someone had refused to give up on me when the rest of the world seemed to fade away. Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that ordinary people can change someone's life forever, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Whispered Kindness. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that may need them the most. Only fragments of the accident returned to me. Rain covered the highway that evening, and visibility had almost disappeared. I remembered driving home after working another long shift, thinking about how exhausted I was and how excited I felt to finally spend the weekend with my girlfriend, Emily. We had been together for nearly 3 years, building dreams one small step at a time. We talked about buying a little house someday, adopting a dog, and eventually starting a family. Life wasn't perfect, but it felt like we were moving in the right direction. The next memory was nothing but bright headlights racing toward me, tires screaming against wet pavement, and then complete darkness. The doctors later explained that I had suffered multiple fractures, internal injuries, and a severe concussion. I had remained unconscious for nearly 9 days. During those 9 days, people came and went. Friends visited during the first couple of days before returning to their own busy lives. Co-workers sent flowers and hopeful messages. My parents stayed whenever they could, driving several hours every day despite their own health problems. But there was one person who almost never left. Emily's younger sister, Sophie. She was only 24, still finishing graduate school while juggling a part-time job at a local bookstore. She had every reason to focus on her own future, yet somehow she found herself spending nearly every free hour sitting beside a hospital bed that held someone who wasn't even family. The nurses later told me something that completely humbled me. Sophie read books aloud even though she wasn't sure I could hear. She played my favorite music quietly through her phone because she had remembered me mentioning those songs months earlier during a family barbecue. Whenever doctors discussed my condition, she carefully wrote everything down so no detail would be forgotten. Every evening she called my parents, explaining every improvement, every setback, and every bit of hope. Emily had visited too during the first few days, but work commitments, stress, and emotional exhaustion slowly pulled her away. No one blamed her. Watching someone you love lying motionless is a kind of pain few people are prepared to face. Eventually her visits became shorter, then less frequent. Sophie never criticized her sister. She never complained. She simply stayed. As my recovery slowly began, I discovered just how difficult healing could be. Walking a few steps felt like climbing a mountain. My left arm barely responded. Simple conversations left me exhausted. There were mornings when I questioned whether my old life would ever return. Whenever frustration threatened to overwhelm me, Sophie somehow appeared with quiet encouragement. She celebrated tiny victories that barely seemed important. The first time I stood without assistance, she smiled like I had won an Olympic medal. When I managed to finish an entire meal without help, she laughed with genuine happiness. When physical therapy left me angry and discouraged, she reminded me that every painful step meant I was still moving forward. Her optimism never felt fake. It came from someone who truly believed broken people deserved hope. During those long afternoons, we talked about everything except my injuries. She spoke about her dreams of becoming a children's counselor because she believed every child deserved someone who would listen without judgment. She admitted she often felt invisible growing up because everyone naturally focused on her outgoing older sister. Instead of becoming bitter, she had quietly decided to become the kind of person who noticed people others overlooked. Those conversations changed something inside me. For years I had measured success through promotions, bigger paychecks, and long working hours. Lying helpless in that hospital bed stripped away every illusion. The people who truly mattered weren't the ones impressed by accomplishments. They were the ones willing to sit beside your weakest moments without asking for anything in return. Weeks passed before I was finally discharged. Leaving the hospital should have felt like the happiest day of my life, but reality arrived quickly. Recovery continued at home. Bills piled up. I couldn't return to work. Every movement remained painful, and the uncertainty of the future weighed heavily on everyone around me. Emily and I slowly realized we were changing in different directions. Neither of us was wrong, but the accident had exposed cracks we had ignored for years. She struggled with fear and wanted life to return to normal as quickly as possible. I had become someone who valued patience, presence, and simple acts of compassion more than anything else. Months later, we mutually decided to end our relationship with respect rather than resentment. It hurt deeply, but sometimes love alone isn't enough to keep two people walking the same path. Surprisingly, Sophie remained part of my life. Not because of romance. Not because of obligation. But because genuine friendships are sometimes born from life's darkest chapters. She continued checking on my parents. She encouraged me through physical therapy. When I finally returned to work, she surprised me with a small notebook containing handwritten quotes about resilience, each one carefully chosen for difficult days. One page simply read, "Healing isn't measured by how quickly you stand again. It's measured by how gently you learn to carry the scars." That sentence stayed with me. Over the next 2 years, I slowly rebuilt everything the accident had taken away. My strength returned. My confidence grew. More importantly, I learned to slow down enough to notice people who quietly carried burdens of their own. I began volunteering at the same rehabilitation hospital where my recovery had started. Every Saturday morning I visited patients who had no visitors. Sometimes they wanted conversation. Sometimes they simply wanted someone willing to sit in silence. I understood both. One afternoon an elderly man squeezed my hand and whispered that he thought everyone had forgotten him. I smiled because I remembered believing something similar once. Nobody deserves to feel abandoned while fighting for another tomorrow. Eventually, I discovered that kindness creates invisible chains connecting complete strangers. A nurse inspired a family member. A family member inspired a patient. That patient later encouraged someone else, who would someday comfort another frightened soul. Compassion travels farther than any of us ever realize. Looking back now, I understand why waking up to see Sophie smiling through tears became one of the most important moments of my life. It wasn't simply because someone was happy I survived. It was because her quiet faith reminded me that hope often arrives through unexpected people rather than perfect circumstances. The accident changed my body forever. Some mornings my injuries still ache when the weather changes. Certain scars will always remain. But those scars no longer remind me of pain. They remind me that life can fall apart in a single second, yet it can also be rebuilt through countless small acts of kindness offered by ordinary people who simply choose not to walk away. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Whispered Kindness. Your support helps these stories inspire more people around the world. Special request, please comment below and tell us about someone whose kindness changed your life. Your story might become the encouragement someone else desperately needs. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't waking up in a hospital bed. Sometimes it's waking up to discover that compassion still exists, quietly waiting beside you, refusing to let hope disappear.